Christian Academy. Dr. Shell here. I'm excited to be able to come to you again in our chapel time. And I want to talk about something we believe. We believe that God is everywhere. That's a truth that we can stand on, that we absolutely believe that God is everywhere. And I want to talk today about some interesting places that people found God. We're going to be looking at several different verses over the next couple of weeks, talking about places where people found God. Some of them are a little odd. And so I think that helps me because sometimes I find myself in a strange place, and it's always good to know that no matter where you are, there God is. In the 23rd Psalm that we quote a lot, it says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." And that sounds so awesome because it's King James and it just sounds like, wow. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. But you know, a better way to translate that is that even when I walk through the valley of dark shadows, because God's not just with us at the time when we die. He's with us everywhere, even when things seem dark and maybe we're afraid. Right now, we're going through a lot of dark times. Things are because of the COVID, and we're meeting in our classrooms. Some of you are meeting at home. Some of you may know somebody who's gotten sick. Right now, I'm in my basement, but you know, people down in Texas are getting hammered by a hurricane. There's a lot of things that happen that scare us and make us worried. And I think it's awesome to know that no matter where we go, God is there. I want to tell you a story that comes out of the Bible in the book of 1 Kings. And one of the prophets' name is Elijah. And I always get Elijah and Elisha confused. They were both prophets, and they knew each other. Elijah with the J came first. It's alphabetical. Elijah with a J comes first. Elisha with an S comes second. So that's how I keep them straight. So Elijah with a J was a prophet. And he was preaching and telling people to get right with God. And in those days, the people in Israel were worshiping lots of false gods. And Elijah told them, you need to get straight that worship only the true God. And people were doing that. And it really upset the queen. Her name was Jezebel, and she was not nice. She wanted people to worship false idols and turn away from the living God. And she was after Elijah and said to him, I'm going to kill you. She was after him to kill him. And Elijah got scared. I would too. She seemed to be a really mean woman, and she was the queen. So she is coming after Elijah, and he gets scared, and he heads out to the desert. And he goes way out into the desert in Israel. And he got to the point he was so tired and exhausted that he got under a shade tree, and he really thought he would die. And then he got poked by an angel. That's what it said. The angel poked him, and he woke up, and the angel had made some had water there, and made some cakes. I wonder if it was angel food cake. So he ate the cake, bread really. He ate the bread, he drank the water, and went back to sleep. And then the angel poked him again, and he woke up, and the angel said, you better eat some more because you've got a long journey. So he ate the bread cake and drank the water, and then he headed out into the desert. And he went another 40 days into the desert, way up into the mountains. Now remember, he's running away from this evil queen that wants him dead. And he went way up in the mountains. And then when he got up in the mountains, he found a cave. And he crawled into the cave. Have you ever been in a cave? Have you ever been to maybe Squire Boone Caverns or maybe Mammoth Cave? It's awesome. There are gorgeous things under the ground. God not only made the heavens and the earth and the things under the earth, and it's fun to go down there and see the stuff that God has created. Well, anyway, Elijah wasn't on a tourist trip. He was scared. He found a cave and he crawled down in it. Now, this is the part I love, okay? So he's 40 days out of the desert. He's up on top of a mountain. Then he goes into a cave. And when he gets in the cave, here's what happens. It says, And the word of the Lord came to Elijah and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Now, listen carefully, boys and girls. God said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Now, if God says, "What are you doing here?" the question is, where is God? Isn't that interesting? Think about this a second. God didn't say, "Elijah, what are you doing in there? Come out." God said, "Elijah, what are you doing in here?" In other words, God was already there. Elijah went 40 days in the desert, into a cave, and when he got into the cave, God was already there. And God talked to Elijah, let him know that I'm with you. I'm going to take care of you. You can trust me. Boys and girls, even when things get really bad in our lives and we're scared and we're frightened, and maybe it's a thunderstorm, maybe it's related to the COVID, maybe it is somebody in your family is really sick, maybe you're just overwhelmed with stuff that's going on at school, and maybe you run and hide in your closet, maybe you hide under your bed, maybe you run to your mom's arms or your dad's arms and they grab you up. The good news is, no matter where you go, God is already there. Even when you're in your mom's and dad's arms, God's wrapping his arms around you too, because he's there with you. You know, I'm wearing this tie that has an American flag on it. The reason is I have a good friend who is in the Air Force. And just today, he had to get in a plane, and he's being stationed overseas in Kuwait, which is on the other side of the world. So he got in a plane, and he's going to fly up to Canada, then he's going to fly over to Scotland, then he's going to fly down to Turkey, then he's going to go to Kuwait. He's going to go almost halfway around the world. But you know what I think the most exciting thing is? That when he gets all that way, he and all the men and women that are traveling with him in this unit, when they get there and he finally gets there and he'll be tired and he'll get his bunk assignment, and when he gets there, you know what? God's already there. And so, no matter where we are, we can trust and believe that God will be there with us, no matter what comes. So I'm so glad we could be together. I'm glad you were able to do chapel in your classrooms. Thank you for our what we call the mini praise team, the praise team that kind of helped lead us in worship, the class that did their openings. I know it's a little different. We have to do it all in different parts, and then we put it all together. Ms. Blevins takes all these different parts, weaves it together. And that's a great illustration of what God talks about at the body of Christ, that each of us has different gifts and talents, that God weaves it together for his honor and his glory. Most of all, though, I want you to know that no matter what you go through, no matter where you are, God is with you. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Look forward to speaking to you next week.